Welcome to Kills and Kisses, the essential podcast for women who want to tap into their divine femininity.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Kills and Kisses. I am so excited for today's episode because we are going to be sharing advice we would tell our high school selves. Now, I don't know about you, Alina, but there is so much advice I would tell my high school self.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the list can go on and on and on. And you guys, even though this episode is catered towards people that are, going into high school and need that high school advice, this advice is for anyone. And it's just that we just happen to learn this advice specifically when we went through our little high school journey. But I'm ready whenever you are, Stephanie.
I have so many points. Well, actually, I only have like 4 points, but I feel like, I dive deep into them. So,
There's going to be a lot of self-reflection in today's episode, which is why I decided to not talk as much in terms of giving you tips. But yeah.
yeah. So, even though there's so much I would tell my high school self, I brought it down to 4 things. And after I wrote down each thing that I would tell my high school self, I realized that each of them had to do with someone in my life during that time. So, get ready for some little story times.
Yeah, some story time, some drama. They might be listening to this episode too. Who knows?
Oh, I hope not, honestly.
That would be funny. That would be interesting.
Oh no. So the first piece of advice I would tell my high school self is to stop compromising your true self for the comfort or validation of others. Now, in high school, the thing I struggled with most was being myself. And I think that a lot of high school students struggle with that. And I'm not going to blame others for me not being myself, but the people I surrounded myself with was a big part of this. And I had some great friends in high school who I'm still great friends with now. Shout out to Ava. But I also had some like not so great friends. And I remember whenever I did act like my true self in front of one of my friends, she would always have like a disgusted face and ask me why I'm acting so weird. And, I would just crawl back into my shell. But if I could go back, I would not crawl back into my shell and I wouldn't be friends with that girl. So stop compromising your true self for the comfort or validation of others.
It's so crazy that you say that. I think one thing that high school really taught me was that a lot of the times the only reason you might be friends with certain people is because you just see them every single day and interact with them every single day.
Definitely.
Outside after I finally graduated high school and everyone sort of went their separate ways, I saw a huge difference in the way people would act towards me. And, yes, life moves on, but it's such a huge lesson that, you might just be friends with people for the sake of just having someone by your side. You may not genuinely, they might not genuinely be a good person. And for me, that took a long time to figure out. And it was after I graduated high school, where then I looked back and I'm like, oh my goodness, how was I friends with such toxic people? Believe me, there was some great people. There was some great people. Shout out to them. But, for a good time, like it baffles me sometimes. I'm like, how in the world did I ever let that slide? There were so many times where I'm just, a loud, not necessarily loud, but very energetic person. And I remember back in high school, I had this one friend that whenever I was, energetic or, excited, she was just like, oh, you know what? Like, Lena, like, you need to stop embarrassing me, And I would just like, you know, I don't know how I let that slide. And I never kept boundaries. That's a huge lesson too. I didn't know that even with you could be the most closest friends with somebody, could be besties, call it whatever you want, but it's still important to keep those boundaries. And if someone walks over you, be like, no, you know what? I did not appreciate that. And I think that's really important. Any friend that, what do you call it, thinks that when you call them out that it's disrespecting or it's disrespectful, I think they are not a good friend. And I think you need to change that friend.
I agree. So the next thing I would tell my high school self is to not consume drama. And drama is a huge thing in high school, as we all know. And people love to gossip and spread rumors and start fights. And I'm not saying I was perfect and didn't consume any drama, because I definitely did. And I wanted to know the latest gossip. But looking back on that now, I could have focused on so many different things if I wasn't so intrigued by the gossip going around school. I remember one friend I had in high school, a different friend from the first story, who would always start drama. I don't know why I stayed friends with her, because I should have seen it coming. She started a rumor about me that made me lose a friend. And the reason I should have seen that coming is because one day she asked me, or sorry, she told me she felt like starting drama. And when I asked why she would want to start drama, she said because she has so much drama going on at home and she felt the need to equal it out at school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, so I think that those people who start rumors and love to gossip have, some sort of thing happening in their personal home life. And I would tell my high school self to not consume drama and focus on schoolwork and my true friendships.
Yeah, and anybody that we call it finds joy in starting drama, and I trust me, I've been there. I've been that person, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
that was like, I love drama. Ha 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 ha. That was middle school me. Regret it, but it taught me quite a bit. And looking back, I can definitely say that anybody that starts drama is no one that's mentally well, no one that's, happy with the way their life is going to
Mm-hmm.
get out of their way and be like, let me stir up some drama for the sake of just stirring up drama.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, when I used to do that, it was a way of like, it was almost like entertainment for me, but it was a way of like distracting me from like other things, and it's like, oh, because there's this drama going around. Number one, a lot of people do it for attention too. I think that's something to consider. A lot of people that might not get attention from other ways decide, okay, like how can I set myself apart? Let me start drama. And what's so interesting? I just thought of something. The whole idea with the drama, I think a lot of it stemmed from wanting to be the cool kid, wanting to be popular. And it's so funny
Mm-hmm.
because that never lasts. And after high school, people go their separate ways and no one cares about being popular. It's like, okay, who has it together? Who has their life together? I
Mm-hmm.
can think of so many people that used to be popular that are just like, it doesn't really exist. The term popularity doesn't really exist after high school.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just now people are just like, okay, do they have their life together? Do they have their career going for them? That's sort of the way people judge you after high school. And I can look back and I can think about how so many times I went against my own morals for the sake of other people and for the sake of looking cool or just wanting to be popular.
Yeah,
And
me
looking
too.
right, I think anyone and everyone that's, been through high school can just think of any moment and can think of a moment is what I'm trying to say, where
Mm-hmm.
they have gone against their own morals. Or, I as I said before, a lot of people would walk all over me back in high school. And I remember that there were so many times where, you know, I would want to say something because I'm like, I have to say something. I have to set it straight. I have to set it right. And I have to speak the truth. But because I was just like, I want to please this person. I was a people pleaser. That I
Yeah.
would go against my morals, keep my mouth shut, and just keep it going. And looking back at that moment, the people that I should have said things to and should have said the truth to went on with their lives, and could not care less and could care less about me, honestly. But at that moment, I did lose my morals and I did go against my morals. So looking back, it's like, okay, in that situation, who lost?
Yeah.
I did, and regardless of what that person is doing, um, where they are in their lives, it's undeniable that I went against my own morals. And I can think of now how I'd use this advice in the future as well, is that I should, always always just stand my ground and never lose my morals or go against my morals for anyone, because they're not worth it.
Mm-hmm. That's very well said. The next piece of advice I would tell my high school self is something I feel like a lot of high school students need to hear, and maybe even college students, maybe anybody. And that is to not feel the need to be mature. And
Mhm.
if you're listening to this and you're in high school, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have a lot of growing up to do. A lot of people have a lot of growing up to do. And I don't care if you have your license or a job or how many boys you've kissed, you are not more mature than your peers because you've experienced more. We all have growing to do even after high school. And in high school, everybody wants to feel like a grown up. But trust me, when you've actually graduated high school, you still won't even feel like a grown up, honestly.
I still don't feel like a grown up.
No, I don't either. And I think
Mhm.
that's perfectly fine.
Oh, for sure.
There's so many experiences to go through and so many things to learn at all stages of your life. And that's something I wish I knew in high school. Another story time, I remember a friend
Woohoo.
of mine. I remember a friend of mine that would always tell me that I have a lot to learn because I didn't have much experience with boys at that time. And she would go on and brag about how mature she was because of the things she's done with the guys. And at the time, it made me feel immature compared to her. But I was literally like 15 years old. And looking back at that age now, I wish I did less at
Victim.
that age. I'll
She's
just
a
put it that
victim.
way.
She's a victim. That, like, that's like not a good mentality.
Yeah, no. But 15 is literally a child. You shouldn't feel the
Literally.
need. Yeah, like you shouldn't feel the need to be mature at the age. You have your whole life to become mature. So, why do it when you're still a child? Like, what's the point?
Yeah, no,
Enjoy your
seriously.
life.
And you know what? Everyone grows up at a different stage in life. This is something that I've I've seen. I've seen people that are still struggling to like figure it out and grow up. And I know people when I was younger that had it together. They figured it out. But don't get so caught up in wanting to get to that stage of like I'm grown up that you completely miss out on the progress. Because to get to that point, you need to learn and go through life, and that is something that happens on its own, and it's not really something you can, you know, force.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that's really interesting how you said that.
yeah, high school is such a competitive place. Like everybody wants to one up each other, and it's kind of ridiculous because we're children at that stage of our life. Like
Exactly.
we're all learning. We don't need to one up each other. We can support each other.
And when I was younger, um, there was, along with the drama, majority of the drama, almost all of the drama was just between women. There was like this weird need to like compete with every other woman,
Yeah.
every other girl. There was like this weird like, oh my gosh, like she can't be better than me. I think it was honestly just stemmed mostly by what people portrayed high school to be like it's this
Mm-hmm.
drama filled place where people are being shoved, you know to like in like lockers, and it's like that's absolutely ridiculous, and there's no need to compete with another woman. And growing up, what I found and what I've learned and what I think is just absolutely beautiful is that there is so much acceptance and love and sisterhood. There is no need to compete with another woman, and that there's so much, there's like this weird like underlying feeling that I think a lot of women have towards other women. Just because we go through the same thing together in this male dominated society, where it's like you can't help but just have so much love and empathy. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
is a beautiful thing. And I think if I could tell my younger self anything, I think it would be that, for sure. And I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why, having a true friend is so important. And this is kind of a segue into a future episode, but
Mm-hmm.
being a good friend and having a good friend is so important because, like there's no competitiveness, there's no jealousy. Like it's just a beautiful friendship. And I won't go into that too much because I want to save stuff for that episode when it comes to it. But yeah, sisterhood is a really beautiful thing.
For sure.
So the last piece of advice I would tell my high school self is to keep your grades to yourself. And one thing I try to do now is to keep my accomplishments to myself. And the reason I do this is because it gives me a chance to achieve things in life without anybody throwing their negative feedback at me. And I read this somewhere and really agree with it, where somebody said that it's important to give yourself time to adjust before sharing your new lifestyle with others. And now I think this also applies to high school students with their grades. Have you ever met someone in your class who would always get really good grades? I want to share that with everyone.
For sure.
So
it wasn't me, but I always knew somebody else that would get like the best grades, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you got like a 98.
Yeah, no.
I got 100% though.
Exactly.
Like, please.
Yeah, and I was this person's best friend. And yeah, so in high school, I was good friends with this person, but I use, good friends very lightly because, well, I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. She might be listening, but
maybe.
We had many classes together in high school, and one of them was English class. And if you know me, you know that I love English class because I planned on going to college for journalism. So I put a lot of effort into my English class. The first time my friend asked me what I got on an assignment in that class, I didn't mind sharing because I'm not going to lie, I did pretty good. But she would usually have a better grade than me and rub that in my face. I would get a 95 and she would get 100 and be like, oh, it's okay, Steffi. You'll do better next time. I hate when people call me Steffi, but she knew that.
Oh my gosh.
And after that, I started keeping my grades to myself, which really wasn't easy because she would always ask me what I got on the assignment and like pressure me into telling her. And I would always say I'd like to keep that to myself. So then she would assume I got a bad mark and still rub it in my face that she supposedly got a better mark than me.
Yeah, you know what I just noticed, Stephanie, and I just realized?
Oh, what?
A lot of people, and just looking back, just looking at like, how you said that what do you call it, whenever you tried to hide your grade, she would be like, oh, and sort of play that like pity thing on you. A lot of people will just be friends with you just so they have something to like, look down on.
Yeah, like make yourself
so that
look
they
better.
can look better.
Yeah.
And so that's why they keep you around, because they just want to look better than you.
Yeah, and I did not realize that in high school. But looking back on that now, like I should have really stuck up for myself more.
And now those people, like I know a lot of people that I've just grown away from, like I've grown so much as a person that it's like, my mind and your mind, respectfully, is just somewhere else. We're on two different mindsets, and that I would not enjoy having you as a company like I did before,
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to look back and be like, a lot of people we were just friends with only hung out with us, only spent time with us because they just wanted someone that they can be like, oh, you know what, poor thing, but just have them around so that they can look better, and have like feel their own ego.
Definitely.
So,
yeah,
that's just so interesting to me.
Yeah, after high school, I stopped being friends with this girl, but I did have a chance to become friends with her again, and I almost went through with it. And then I was like, wait, what am I doing? Like, do I not remember how she treated me in high school? So obviously I don't think she maybe knew the effect that she had on me. Like, I don't know. But I remember the first time I refused to tell her my grade, and this girl was so mad at me that she was on the verge of tears because
oh my gosh.
because I didn't satisfy her with the knowledge of my grade.
Please.
So yeah, my advice to students, or really any grade, college, age, whatever, is to keep your grades and your accomplishments to yourself. Good
And
or bad, honestly, good or bad.
And you know what? If you're that great and you've reached that point of success, then your results will speak for itself and you won't even have to go and be like, hey, like, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm doing. I could you not, the amount of people that come to me and ask me what I'm doing with my life, and I have to like forge an answer because honestly, I don't
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, what I'm working towards, I want to keep that private,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that self growth is not there yet. It's not where I want it to be. And before I have other people judging it, I want it. And, even on yourself, it sort of like makes it, oh man, like now I have to fulfill their expectation of me. Right.
Mm.
So it's best to sometimes keep things private. And I'm really enjoying that. I've sort of taken, by the way, to side note, I've sort of taken like a break from social media, and I only use it when I really have to, like to maybe promote something or promote this podcast. But,
Mhm.
Keeping things private is honestly a crazy thing. And amazingly, it also creates mystique and it creates mystery. And people sort of love that. People are always going to be nicer to the new thing, the new person. Like, think of it sort of like how you get a new student in high school and everyone's, oh my gosh, the new student, who is she? Sort of that mystery. And I think that's also something really interesting, that a lot of people are just naturally like going to be nicer to the newer thing or the mystery thing, the thing that we don't know about. And
Mhm.
that's just a really cool thing too, just on a side note.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's totally understandable that you want to keep things private, and it blows my mind that people like this girl in my high school don't understand that.
Mhm.
So, do you think it's time for our Reddit segment?
I think it is. All right,
Okay.
guys. Our favorite part, the Reddit segment. So, this is by, I'm not even gonna try and pronounce this username, but basically, they said, high school advice, please. I'm currently a senior in high school and I will have to stay back a year because I've missed so many days. I've stayed back before, but it feels even worse now because all my friends will be living their lives, working a job, or attending college. I'm honestly very scared. What should I do?
That's tough.
Yeah, I read that paragraph like I used to read books back in middle school. I was that one kid that was like, I don't know what,
Do you
that just gave
remember
me
do,
flashbacks. But anyways, on to the advice.
do you remember popcorn reading? That just reminded me of that.
Popcorn reading? What's popcorn
Yeah,
reading?
like in class where you'd be reading a textbook with the whole class, and like each person would have to read like a sentence or a paragraph, and
Oh
then
my gosh, I
I
do.
hated that.
I hated
I
that.
would like try
I
to
would
find what I would read and then like read it in my head and like make sure I wouldn't mess it up. Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and then
Anyway.
there was like the amazing kids that know that they sounded amazing and
Oh
could
yeah.
like, because they'd have that pause after. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll
I
be reading
do.
something and then they'll sort of like not fully close their book, but just like take a moment for themselves and just
Yeah.
look around. I'm like, yeah, I did that. It would
That's so
bother me so
funny.
much because it's like, oh my gosh, like now I think I can if I actually like memorize it. But hey, I didn't memorize this. Okay, don't come.
Anyway, let's answer this person. Do you want to answer or me?
You go first.
Okay, so they're worried because they have to redo a grade and their friends are going off to college. They feel, a bit,
Left behind.
yeah, left behind. And I totally understand that. So everybody is growing and learning at their own pace. And even after high school, we're all learning at different paces. Some people may be in college for 4 years, and others may be in college for only 2 years. So we're all growing differently and in our own unique ways. You have your whole life ahead of you to go to college and get a job and do whatever you want in life. So focus on your life and move at your own pace. Don't worry about your friends' lives. Worry about your own. Now that you're redoing a grade, you know that you need to put more effort into it this time. So you live and you learn, but I promise that by moving at your own pace and not worrying about other people's lives, you'll realize that you have so much time to figure things out. And honestly, I hear you. Like, I hear you. I have felt this way so many times in my
Oh
life,
yeah.
especially when I was homeschooled. I was homeschooled for only 2 years of my life, grade 6 and 7. No, wait. No,
Interesting.
wait, no, it was 7 and 8. I was homeschooled 7 and 8th grade. And I felt like I kind of regret it being homeschooled because I felt so behind. All my friends were going off to high school, and like I also just moved to Ontario from BC. So everything was so new. And so in grade 9, I actually decided to go to high school, which was super scary because I felt like everybody was ahead of me. Everybody's been in school, they know what school's like, but I had to adjust to this new life. So, yeah, I hear you. It's hard, but you'll get through it.
Yeah.
You'll get through it,
Yeah,
I
and
promise.
homeschool to like public school is such a huge jump.
Yeah, it really was.
I can't even imagine that. I can tell you, like, I went to Islamic school, which was a really big change for me. It
Mhm.
was an interesting experience, but I definitely felt a little like sort of lost when I went back to public school because it's just so different in terms of the environment. And so I can definitely relate to the feeling of feeling as if, would you call it, left behind. But you
Mhm.
know what? I think, Stephanie, you put it beautifully. So I'm not even going to try and like sort of, look for an answer. But I guess what I'll leave it at is that, everyone grows differently. And, so many people, even after high school, go their separate ways.
Mhm.
And, even if you don't meet them every single day and you see them on social media, they're living their amazing college life. And, everyone grows differently. And I think the uh, friendship that you have with yourself is so much more important and bigger and special than the friendship that you have with other people, because other people are going to come and go, but you're always with yourself. You're always going to be there by yourself at the end of the day, and so that relationship is the most important relationship. And so we should not put other people first when it
Mhm.
comes to our own self growth. So that's my advice.
Yeah, perfect. I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode. And yeah, stay tuned. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye guys.